Opening day, here are the preseason predictions as generated by the game itself. We are predicted to win 67 games. It's about what we were predicted last year, and I think that ended up being about what we won. So hopefully we'll get a better result this year. These will be the projected top players in the American League. We'll actually face off against the young 23-year-old lefty Ricky Tiedemann on opening day, which you'll see in just a second. National League predictions, here you go, and here should be your top players in the National League. Here are your top 100 prospects in the game right now. We have a couple. One of them is number 36, Luis Castellanos, the big catcher we just signed, as well as Devin Taylor at number 51, our left fielder prospect who we drafted in the first round last year. Those two give us the 23rd best farm system overall. That is far outside our goal of reaching the top 6 eventually, but it's also the best we've ranked throughout this save. Here's our current list of prospects I'm taking responsibility for. I'm keeping an eye on them, and I'm handling their promotions and demotions. We're seeing vast majority just young guys and rookie ball. Even Castellanos is still in the international complex, so he hasn't graduated from it, but we may see him play in the Dominican later on this summer. As far as movement, Adrian Santana is the main guy who's made the jump to full season A-ball. I'm hoping he'll be able to hang there. I'm excited about him. We targeted him in a trade with Tampa Bay back in 2024 at the trade deadline, and I was excited to get him at the time. Devin Taylor moves to high A. That was the other sort of big promotion. He played all of last year in A after he was drafted. Now he moves to high A, and he could be fast-tracked to the majors sooner than you think. And then as far as our Triple A goes, Brock Jones and Enrique Bradfield are two guys we're keeping an eye on. It's tricky because they're both lefties, and that might make things a little bit tricky for us as far as figuring out how to lay out our outfield, especially with Devin Taylor also being a lefty in the long term. But that's how our prospects are looking. Oh yeah, and Zach Brixey, technically a prospect for us as well. He is starting on the opening day roster as a member of our bullpen. This is how we will line up versus Ricky Tiedemann and his Toronto Blue Jays. It's the first time we faced a lefty on opening day, so this is the first time we've been able to really watch our lefty lineup. I think it's a little bit weaker than our righty lineup, mostly because it forces Anthony Santander into the field, where he's really not the best. We prefer him at DH, and we would honestly prefer him to do a lot better than he did in 2025, but at least we get to see Zach Geloff in the 2 spot as our designated hitter. JP Sears is going to start the game facing Luis Arias, who was traded to Toronto the previous offseason. He's going to ground out to second, and that is your first out of the season. All right, top of the 4th here. Really no action so far. JP Sears facing off against Makoto Sakamoto, and he hits him, and that's the second player he's actually hit with a pitch so far this game. Henry Davis sends one to center. That's going to be tracked by Clark for the first out of the inning. I don't even see who this is hitting. Oh, this is Yoshida, and wow, Sakamoto is out by an actual mile. And so Yoshida now hitting with 2 outs. Sends one to center, and that is a diving catch by Clark. We move on to the bottom of the 4th. Sears facing Andrew Vaughn to lead off the 5th. Andrew Vaughn, and that ball is just going to sneak through between our shortstop and third baseman. George Springer now tries to lay down bunt. I will let him do that if he so chooses. And that will advance the runner. Alex DeJesus strikes out. And Paul DeYoung to shortstop. 5 scoreless for... Oh, I say that, but the ball gets away from the first baseman, Pete Alonso, and they score a run off of it. That is a a throwing error on Nick Ahmed. That hurts for JP Sears. That run will not be earned. Luis Arias grounds out to third, but Toronto take the lead off of a defensive miscue. Matt Chapman leading off the bottom of the 7th. We could use a run. He strikes out. Tiedemann still in the game. Shea Langoliers strikes out. That's 10 strikeouts for Tiedemann. He has been absolutely dominant. Santander. Ooh, Santander hits that one pretty well, but it's going to be another diving catch in the outfield. And we move on to the 8th. We've got Joe Boyle ready. I will do a Boyle versus Doyle, right? Why not do a Boyle versus Doyle when you get the chance? Boyle versus Doyle. Ooh, Doyle hits this one pretty far, but it's going to be caught out there by Clark. This is absolutely a pitcher's park. Sakamoto up next. Ooh, Sakamoto hits one down the line, and that's going to be his first career home run in Major League Baseball. It's going to make it 2-0 Toronto. 1-1. And we do have a leadoff hit. That's what we need. A bloop and a blast ties this game up. And Nick Ahmed, our number 9 hitter, turns it over to the top of the order. This is Jacob Wilson. It's going to be a line out to first, but thankfully no double play there. Zach Geloff strikes out. And with 2 outs, it's Denzel Clark. Ball gets away from the catcher. So Nick Ahmed will advance to second. And he'll choose to walk Clark to face Alonso. Alonso, weak grounder, shortstop. And they'll get the force out at second. We move on to the top of the 9th. Calling on Zach Brixey here in the top of the 9th. We have Ronan Kopp also warming up. Those are our 2 new relievers to the team. Both had excellent spring trainings. Oh, and George Springer just hit the ball about a mile. 418 feet. 3-0 ball game. Yeah, that's rough. We're going to have to bring in Ronan Kopp here. Runners on second and third. I want him to at least face Arias. But I guess we'll warm... I don't know what to do. I guess we'll warm Zach Jackson. It's a 3-0 game. And things have come undone for us from the top of the 9th. I really wanted to keep it at a 2-run game, but sadly that will not be the case. 4-0 Toronto. Brenton Doyle to second. Do we get the double play? Yes, we do. We'll trade a run for that. But it's a 5-0 game. Facing off against Tyler Nevin, former Oakland A himself. And that catch will be made in foul territory by Alonso, but 3 insurance runs there for Toronto. Let's at least get a run. Matt Chapman, 2-2 count. Matt Chapman down the line. And that's going to be his first home run of the season, our first home run of the season, our first runs of the season. And the Oakland A's crowd, I'm sure, is happy to see that. Although it's still a 5-2 game. That hurts. This game could have been tied if we, did better. They bring in David Bednar now. It is a safe situation indeed. Langoliers to short. That's going to be collected for the first out of the 9th. Anthony Santander. Infield pop-up. And once this ball comes down, we will be down to our last out on opening day here. Nick Ahmed, 2-2. Strikes out. That's your ball game. Toronto win 5-2 behind Tiedemann's dominant performance. Here is your box score. Right away, 2 games into the season, Pete Alonso, by the way, we won our second game 6-2. Pete Alonso, plantar fasciitis, 6-week injury. This is interesting because Ryan Noda is due to come back any day now, so it's basically going to be swapping the 2, but I'd have to figure out who's going to play first base in between. That's going to be a pretty clear-cut answer. It's going to be Joey Loperfido, but maybe only for a few days. In real life, he's been called up to the Houston Astros, so good for him. 3 games into the season, we are in first place. Stop the count. 9 games into the season, we are still in first place. Stop the count, although in Oakland A's fashion, we are 15th in runs scored. The draft pool has been revealed. It is headlined by a prep shortstop by the name of Grady Emerson. April 15th, we're 6-5. Ryan Noda finally ready to come off the IL. He will take Joey Loperfido's spot at first base. Loperfido, really small sample, but not super impressive, so I don't feel too bad sending him down. He can play a lot of positions. He's like a great organizational depth piece, and I think with someone like Santander potentially getting traded at the trade deadline because he's just been awful for us in general, or just, maybe even just DFA him if we can't get anything for him, he will definitely be in the mix. We're also going to move Matt Chapman up the lineup into our cleanup spot because, and granted, it's only 11 games, but he is absolutely on fire to start the season. One thing to monitor here early, Sawyer Gipson-Long has been really bad in his first couple starts with us, 6 runs allowed in both of those. Hunter Brown, meanwhile, in the bullpen in a long relief role, has yet to allow a run through 10 innings. So if that trend continues, they will be flip-flopped, I imagine, in terms of their roles. May 2nd, we are 12-13. Most of our division is right next to us in that. Maybe the Texas Rangers a little bit behind that pace. Interesting developments so far. Down there at the bottom of the lineup, Lawrence Butler and Nick Ahmed not hitting well. Lawrence Butler, we've tried to give him chances. He's only played 11 games, though, to be fair. Anthony Santander starting to maybe get it together a little bit. Joshua Mears having the hilarious, first month of the season, pacing for 253 strikeouts on the season, but also pacing for 45 home runs and a 126 OPS plus and 4 WAR. So I guess we'll take it. Ryan Noda back on the team, you'll recall. He's doing all right to start the season. And Matt Chapman, I feel like we should definitely highlight because he is looking like an MVP candidate in the early stages. Maybe he's just unlocked some of his powers being back in Oakland. May 16th, we're 17 and 21, but we're also only, 2.5 games behind the Los Angeles Angels. This does not appear to be the strongest division so far this year, so still very much in play for us at the moment, although it is only mid-May. I think it's time to sort of retool the team a little bit. We've got a decent sample size of performances, about a month and a half, about a quarter of the season. I think Lawrence Butler, it's probably time for him to go. Nick Ahmed, who has not hit well at all and hasn't played enough defense to make up for it. Maybe Nick Allen gets involved some at shortstop. And I'm even looking at the back end of the rotation here, Braxton Ashcraft and Sawyer Gipson-Long versus someone like Hunter Brown in the bullpen. It may be time to do some flip-flopping there. And finally, Mason Miller with an ERA of almost 9. Probably time to move him out of the closer role. Maybe do a Joe Boyle or a Ronan Kopp or even a Zach Jackson, who's been, has an ERA below 1. But it's time to move things around a little bit. So I've brought in Lo Perfido for Lawrence Butler's role. We also have Brock Jones and Enrique Bradfield. And honestly, if those guys start hitting a little bit better, they're going to see their first call-ups to the majors, which could be exciting. And then Zach Jackson, we're going to put in the closer role. And then Braxton Ashcraft and Sawyer Gipson-Long, they have a couple games in the rotation here coming up versus Houston. And you can consider that tryouts. All right, it's May 18th. I rearranged. I tinkered some more. This is how we're going to line up versus right-handed pitching. We have Pete Alonso back in the lineup. We're going to bat him 5th for now. And then here's how we're going to line up versus left-handed pitching still. And then I went ahead and looked at the starts that Ashcraft had. He had a good start, and Gipson-Long also had a good start. So their jobs are somewhat safe for now, although Hunter Brown, honestly, he's pushing them. He's done really well in the bullpen for us. We're also going to give Nick Allen a run at shortstop, and he's already gone ahead and rewarded us with a home run in just his second start. So he's going to split time with Nick Ahmed. They're going to both play about 50-50, and we'll see if one emerges over the other. May 20th, we are 20 and 23. Pete Alonso, concussion, 2 weeks, unbelievable. Guy cannot catch a break. He has played 6 games for us so far this year. When Pete came back, we moved Ryan Noda to left field where he had been competent. I realized that he was a better rated outfielder, at least in left field, than Santander. So we were doing Noda left field, Santander DH. Santander is doing very well to start the year. He is atoning for his sins from 2025. So I'm going to make an interesting call here. It's going to cause a shakeup, and it's probably only going to be temporary given Pete Alonso's injury, but we are going to take Pete Alonso off the roster, put him on the injured list, and replace him with his polar bear opposite, Enrique Bradfield Jr. Welcome to the show. How will that work for now? It's actually quite simple. Our lineup versus lefties will remain the same. Versus righties, we will move Denzel Clark to right. We will move Joshua Mears to left, and we will bring in Bradfield in center, and we will bat him 9th. That's how we're going to do it, at least now with Pete Alonso out. It's a very defensive lineup. We now have the best defensive outfield in the league, I'm sure. Oh, wow, and literally the next day, Denzel Clark strained oblique 5 to 6 weeks, so we would have probably ended up calling up Bradfield anyway, but let's get Denzel Clark on the IL. I'm not really sure how to handle this one. I bet I can figure it out. I'm going to bring Lo Perfido into the mix for versatility's sake. Move Mears to right, put Lo Perfido in left. It's the lineup versus lefties that's a little trickier. I'm going to bring in Lazarito and just kind of move him down here into the 8 or the 9 spot. Don't forget that Zach Geloff is still on this team. He has been our DH versus left-handed pitching, and he has not done well. He's been off to a slow start, just as he was in 2025, a similar level of hitting, not what we saw in 2024 when he was arguably our best player. May 29th, we are 22 and 28. Sawyer Gipson-Long has been struggling in the rotation for us. He's had a rough last 2 starts. He only went 2 innings versus the Yankees. He allowed 6 runs at Boston after that. So I'm going to make the executive decision. We are going to put Hunter Brown into the rotation. He's been jonesing for a spot, and at least for now, he's got it. It's June 1st. We are 25 and 28. Brady Basso just threw a complete game 1-hitter versus the Philadelphia Phillies that we won 1-0. I'm looking at the division now, and I'm saying, hey, it's anyone's. It's up for grabs. We're only a game and a half off that, and we're only a game and a half off a 3rd wildcard spot. So 2 months into this season, we're still in this thing, and that's been without any contributions from Pete Alonso, really, and Denzel Clark, still injured for another month, but we're excited to see where this team is going to go. And we're looking towards the future, and that future involves also looking at the prospects. Here's the scouting check-in. Our best prospect is probably Luis Castellanos. He's ranked number 36th. He was our big money international free agent signing from the most recent class. He has not quite graduated the international complex yet, although honestly, looking at his ratings, he's close. Like, I imagine he will make his debut in rookie ball before he turns 17. In the Dominican, we also have a few from the previous international free agency class. One of those is Trent Colcott. His ratings have come down a little bit. The other one, Julio Ledesma, his ratings have come down a little bit. But honestly, if they, continue to fill out as projected, that would still be a pretty good outcome overall. We do have a new graduate from this whole just slew of players in rookie ball. We have a new player ready for full season A ball. That is going to be Brady Neal, who was our 2025 fifth rounder out of LSU, a catcher. He joins Adrian Santana, who has not done particularly well. We've challenged him by moving him to A ball. These ratings aren't necessarily the best for A ball, but it's time. You're almost 21. Move on to A ball. Devin Taylor, we're going to be aggressive with, had a very good outing in high A, about 200 plate appearances, 147 OPS plus, slugging over 600, 17 homers in 44 games. We're going to promote him to Double A, and that's an aggressive move, but he is also one of our top prospects, ranked number 51st currently. And of course, we have Enrique Bradfield Jr. in the majors. Here are his numbers so far. Not great, but replacement level, because just the stolen bases and the defense are unbelievable. That is what he is there to do. And I'll also take a peek at Brock Jones here. Not having a great start to his season in AAA. He did well in AAA in 2025. Had an OPS around 1,000. All that is in a crazy run environment. But if he heats up in AAA, he's someone you could expect to see in the majors at some point this year as well. June 10th, we are 29-32. Pete Alonso is eligible to come off the injured list once again. In a corresponding move, we are sitting down Joey Lopafito. This is what happens when you have options. You just get called up, called down, called up, called down. Noda will go back to left field so Pete can play first base. June 20th, we are 35-36, 1 game off of 500, 2.5 games off the division lead, 2 games off a wild card spot. Nick Ahmed is injured with the diagnosis pending. Nick Allen had been playing, honestly, more shortstop and honestly doing a little bit better than Nick Ahmed, though neither doing particularly well. We're going to see what his injury is, because usually if it's a delayed diagnosis, we often find it's not so good. A setback for Denzel Clark means he'll be out for 2 more weeks. I don't think that's that bad of a setback if I'm recalling the timeline of his injury. Still no news on Nick Ahmed. We do get back to 500 at 36-36 with a win over the Angels. Rotation in general is doing quite well right now. And we get a win. Day-to-day injury for Jacob Wilson. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with playing him through that. I want to see what Nick Ahmed's doing. We do have an off day too. Torn labrum, 4 months. We do get above 500. This is definitely the latest in the season we've been above 500, but Nick Ahmed, torn labrum in his shoulder, a 4-month injury. Let's see, that'll put it's June right now, so that probably means he misses the rest of the regular season at least. We're going to put him on the 60-day IL, and shortstop is a position where we're weak. I mean, it's Nick Allen is filling in as best as he possibly can, but organizationally too, we don't have that much in AAA in terms of players who can actually play shortstop. So I'm going to call up Drew Swift, who is the shortstop for our AAA team. Welcome to the 40-man, I guess. I don't know if he was already on the 40-man. But Nick Allen's going to be our shortstop from here on out, it looks like. The other option would be kicking Jacob Wilson over to shortstop, where he would not be ideal, and then bringing in Geloff to play second base. It's an interesting thought. I'm going to wait and see if Geloff can heat up, or if Nick Allen just completely cools down, falls off the face of the earth. In other news, Pete Alonso is off to a good start for us and has managed to hit his first 3 home runs in an Oakland A's uniform. I should shout out JP Sears as well at this point in the season, having an amazing start, 15 games started, 2.25 ERA, his whip is .84. We'll see if he's an all-star or anything like that, but it makes me glad that I gave him this extension before he had this great start to the season, because he would probably be more expensive. With proper hindsight now, I think it's safe to say that Nick Ahmed's tenure in an Oakland A's uniform was a disappointment, and I took Miguel Rojas and his 70 OPS plus 2 WAR for granted. I thought that was replaceable, and in this case, it wasn't so easily replaceable. June 30th, we are 39-41. John Fisher has sent us his mid-season review of goals. Happy with team record, happy that we've acquired an all-star like Pete Alonso. happy with increased attendance, not happy with the farm system, and not happy with the draft record either. And, I agree with that. Our draft record needs to get better. We still have 2 first-round picks coming up here. And he doesn't quite think we've improved the fan interest. We've improved it some, but not enough to his standards. Speaking of draft, I guess these are former draftees, a lot of them, but the top 100 prospects list has been updated, and Ethan Salas is in the number 1 spot. Max Clark was at number 1. He falls to number 4. Seattle has started to really heat up lately. They've pulled away from the 500-ish pack, so we are 7 games back in the West, 4.5 games off an AL wildcard spot as of July 1st. I am going to make one minor change to the bullpen. Zach Brixey has not impressed so far. Unlike Ronan Kopp, Zach Brixey has not quite been the man for us so far. That's Colin Poche. Zach Brixey, 6 home runs allowed at 22 innings. We're going to send him down, and we're going to bring in, Yankees fans, get ready for a legend here, Ron Marinaccio, who has been on our 40-man, and we've been waiting for an opportunity to use him. Now we're going to use him and give him a shot. Welcome to the big leagues, Ron Marinaccio. July 6th, Denzel Clark eligible to come off the injured list. We really needed him. We've really missed him. The bats have gone cold. We'll send down Enrique Bradfield Jr. Not a bad first stint with us, honestly. I mean, a 66 OPS plus, you might say, oh, PU, that's awful. But considering the defense he gives us in center, considering 9 stolen bases in 30 games, it could have gone a lot worse. But yeah, here's what I mean by the bats going cold. Anthony Santander has gone cold. Pete Alonso has, not quite lived up to what was a pretty good start for us. He's only hit a couple home runs in the last month or so. Joshua Mears back batting below 200, back to being on pace for a record-breaking amount of strikeouts. What's funny is he's not quite like a lunk, like a Adam Dunn type, because he does play good defense. So he's still pacing to be at least a one-war player, but and Matt Chapman, who was looking like an MVP candidate early on. I mean, it's still a good year. I'm still very happy with the year he's having, but it's not quite how he was pacing early in the season. So here we are on July 11th, the day of the draft, and we are in a little bit of a skid. We're 41-48. You'll recall we've played, mostly 500 ball throughout the year, but lately we have been in a skid, and as a result, we are 11.5 games behind the division-leading Mariners, who have just gotten really hot. Good for them. 8 games off the wild card. We'll have to see how we finish up July, but it'll be an interesting debate to see, are we potentially a buying team at the trade deadline, or are we indeed a selling team as we've been? If we are a selling team, Anthony Santander seems like an obvious sell for us, and maybe even Walker Buehler if he can get his act together just a little bit more. I mean, in terms of his peripherals, he's actually great, but the ERA is a 100 ERA plus. He's a league average pitcher by run prevention, so that's about where I'll leave you. But do please tune in for the next episode, because I'll be picking 6th and 14th in the draft.